And just like that, the Kenny Pickett era with the Steelers is officially over. Kenny Pickett has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a very weird situation because just a week ago, Omar Khan came out and said, hey, Kenny Pickett is our guy, but there's going to be competition in that room. They went out, they signed Russell Wilson, they traded Deontay Johnson, and the next thing you know, Kenny Pickett is no longer with this team. Now, there were reports that were saying that Kenny Pickett no longer wanted to be with the Steelers. They wanted a fresh start. We'll see how that plays out. But all I know is that Kenny Pickett is no longer with this roster. This is a guy that was a first-round pick a couple of years ago. And the same draft class of guys like Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, and Malik Willis, that quarterback class would go down as one of the worst quarterback classes of all time in the NFL draft. That quarterback class was abysmal. And it seemed like the best quarterback was Sam Howell, and he just got traded to the Seattle Seahawks. That kid really never got a fair chance. I look at Kenny Pickett, because this is what this video is about. 2022, his rookie season, 7 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Not all the interceptions were his fault. They were not. We can go back to the New York Jets game. He came in, he was very sporadic, but he gave the team a boost. He gave a team a spark. That's what he did. And you look at his rookie season, it was a lot of promise. Some people were not sold on Kenny Pickett. I was high on him after that rookie season because the offense did look better, but it came down to Matt Canada. And Matt Canada was one of the worst offensive coordinators I have ever seen. Forget just in Steelers history, one of the worst offensive coordinators in NFL history. But at the same time, I cannot come on here and hate on Zach Wilson and give those guys flack. I can't come on here and hate on other quarterbacks like Mac Jones and not have the same energy for Kenny Pickett, even though those guys are in the worse situation than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett had Deontay Johnson, very good wide receiver, had George Pickens, excellent wide receiver, Pat Freiermuth, had Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, all those weapons, and was not able to go out there and succeed with those guys. And a lot of it was on coaching, but the other half of it was on Kenny Pickett as well. This is a guy that does not have the NFL arm to be a consistent starter in the NFL for a period of time. And I still like Kenny Pickett. I do. I'm not going to shy away from it. I was on board with them selecting him in the first round. I'll take that L. I will do that. But at the same time, I can come on here and be truthful enough and say that this was never going to work with Matt Canada. I would have loved to see him with Arthur Smith. But like I mentioned before, a coach cannot go out there and they cannot throw the football for you. They cannot go out there and read NFL defenses for you. There were times that wide receivers would be open and Kenny Pickett would never see him, or Kenny Pickett would just overshoot him. Like how it happened in the Tennessee Titans game. I understand in that game he dealt with some broken ribs and he was playing through it. And he dealt with a high ankle sprain towards the end of the season. That's why he missed majority of the season on the back end of the season. He missed those games that Mr. Trubisky had to come in, and Mr. Trubisky looked terrible. But this guy was cooked when Mason Rudolph came in for those last 3 games of the regular season, and Mason Rudolph looked better than he did. And especially in that playoff game against the Buffalo Bills, where Mason Rudolph did the best he could to try to get the Steelers over the hump in that game. Kenny was basically done at that point. And like Mike Tomlin came out and said right after that Bills game, he came out and said, hey, Kenny is basically our guy, but there's going to be some competition in that room. We could possibly run him back with him and Mason and see who's the best quarterback. Mason Rudolph is no longer with this roster. Mason Rudolph is with the Tennessee Titans right now. He's going to be the backup with that team. So Mike Tomlin was still high on Kenny Pickett. Even when they signed Russell Wilson, there was belief that, hey, he's going to battle it out with Russell Wilson and the best man's going to win. And whoever doesn't win is going to be the backup quarterback with this team. Now, it was a great chance that Kenny Pickett was not going to beat Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson had 26 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions this season. And that's more touchdowns in one season than Kenny Pickett had in 2 years. Now, granted that Kenny Pickett did not play the full 2 years. He missed some of the games his rookie season because he sat down behind Mr. Trubisky. Then this season that we just moved off of, he missed some games dealing with a high ankle sprain. And he also had a concussion in his rookie season against Tampa Bay Buccaneers where he got knocked out of that game. And Mr. Trubisky came in and they won that game. But I always go back to that Baltimore Ravens game, his rookie season, right before they faced the Cleveland Browns. He made some elite level throws and he looked very good in that game. He was moving the chains. He did a lot of good things in that game. But it was the inconsistency with the accuracy and a lack of arm power that really hurt this kid. I could definitely see the Steelers drafting a quarterback right now because when you look at it, they don't have Kenny Pickett. They don't have Mason Rudolph as a backup option. And long term, you're going to have to go out there and get the right quarterback for this team. I really wish that it was going to be Kenny Pickett, but instead it's not. And Kenny Pickett entered the league at a very weird age. Kenny Pickett was one of those older quarterbacks similar to Brandon Whedon when he came out. So you already had that against him as well. He wasn't your typical 20 to 21-year-old rookie that entered the NFL, or even a 22-year-old rookie. This guy was 24 years old when he came into the league. He spent some extensive time in college, and some people believe that he wouldn't even been a first-round pick if it was not for Jordan Addison having that crazy year at Pitt. And if it wasn't for the pandemic year, that he wasn't going to be a first-round pick regardless. And I wouldn't disagree with that. That may be the case. But looking back at it, no quarterback should win the first round that year. And the Steelers tried to trade up with the Houston Texans to get Kenny Pickett. That was confirmed. That's how high the Steelers organization were. That's how high they were on Kenny Pickett. And they still were big fans of Kenny Pickett within the building, even up to them trading Kenny Pickett. But this was a Kenny Pickett decision, it seems like, that he no longer wanted to be with the team. But at the end of the day, Omar Khan is changing everything. Omar Khan is playing no games. Last season was his first full true off season of being the brand new general manager, because before that you had Kevin Colbert for all those years. And towards the end of his career, he started missing on some first round picks. They missed on Devin Bush. Najee Harris has been a fine running back with this team, but you guys know how I feel about running backs in the first round. And that's no disrespect to Najee Harris. He's been awesome with this team. 1,000 yards and back-to-back seasons. That's phenomenal. But at the end of the day, it is a running back. You can find some of those guys in the 4th or 5th round. And I'm not trying to bash on Kevin Colbert here, because this man built great teams throughout the years. But towards the end, he definitely missed. And Kenny Pickett was his last first-round pick. And he was not able to hit on that pick, unfortunately. And you guys know how I feel about Kenny Pickett. It was a great story. The guy played at Pitt right next door to the Steelers. Right there. They drafted this kid. They did not want one of those situations where we let the hometown kid go to another team he had success when we could have had him. So it was a great story. Unfortunately, he could not finish his story with the Steelers. And within 2 years, he's no longer with the Steelers roster. This is a guy in 25 games. They had 13 passing touchdowns to 13 interceptions. One game with multiple passing touchdowns in his career. And that came against the Las Vegas Raiders this season. A Las Vegas Raiders team that was broken, by the way. And they were beat up by Josh McDaniels and his horrible play calling. And that was the best game of his career, in my opinion, was against the Raiders. He got Pat Freiermuth involved. He had a great pass to Calvin Austin III in that game. The only game he had over 300 yards passing in was against the Buffalo Bills. And that was his rookie season. And that was a horrible game. The Steelers could not even score a touchdown in that game. And he had over 50 pass attempts in that game. What did Kenny Pickett in was the fact that he was not good enough to play at this level due to the lack of arm power, and he could not move around fast enough, and he could not adjust to certain NFL looks, especially the blitz. He went blind to the man blitz. And like I mentioned before, I'm not going to come on here and backtrack. I still like Kenny Pickett, man. I still do. Not as a starting quarterback. Like him as a backup. And I really wish things could have went different, but instead they didn't. So the Steelers have entered a brand new era right now. No more Matt Canada. No more Mason Rudolph. No more Kenny Pickett. The only guys that are still in this roster, and no more Deontay Johnson. The only guys that are still in this roster would be George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. But I'm going to let Omar Khan cook. I would say that this is a key trade for the Steelers. They're going to use those draft picks, more than likely, that they got from the Philadelphia Eagles to move up in the NFL draft to possibly draft a wide receiver. But definitely look for the Steelers to draft a quarterback in the 1st or 2nd round, because it's still a great possibility that Russell Wilson may not be that star quarterback that this team is looking for this season. But like I mentioned before in other videos, they just need a guy that can go out there and get them into the right situations. That's it. With that defense looking as great as it is, I think that they'll be okay as long as Russell Wilson can be that veteran quarterback with this team. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about this trade? How do you guys feel about Kenny Pickett leaving this team and no longer being a part of the roster? I know my boy Ross Swisher in the comment section below is going to be happy. I definitely want to hear from you. But if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.